Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L, we're going to be showing you how to install the Blue Ox base plate kit with removable arms. Before we do that though, let's just take a moment, check this out, and make sure it's going to work for your Jeep. Right off the bat, I do want to address the biggest question that we get asked in regards to setting up a flat tow, and that's what parts am I going to need? It's going to be a total of 5 main components. You'll have your base plate, which allows you to attach a tow bar to, which that's the second component, and that's the actual link that connects your coach to the front of your vehicle. Third main part, safety cables. These are just there in the event of an unlikely disconnect, keep you paired together. Fourth main part will be tow bar wiring, and this is going to send the lighting functions from the back of your coach to the back of your Jeep, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, the fifth main part will be a supplemental braking system. And what this is going to do is hit the brakes in your Jeep whenever you hit the brakes in your RV, bringing you to a more predictable stop. This is what the front of your Jeep can look like whenever you're not flat towing. And I think that's important because you're not always going to be hooked up to your coach, right? Especially with a vehicle like this, looks good. And so you want a base plate that is going to kind of match that appearance. And honestly, I really don't think it can get a whole lot better than this setup here. The base plate openings come out right through this small little section here on the grill. It's a matte black finish too, which almost matches the plastic on the bumper perfectly. And like I said, I don't think it can get a whole lot better. It's really not too noticeable on the front of the Jeep. And the base plate comes with an attachment point and a little bracket here at the bottom. That way it makes setting up your wiring connector and your breakaway switch for your braking system convenient. You're not going to have to cut out extra openings or try to make brackets yourself. Even with everything looking awesome, you're not going to have to sacrifice the ease of use when you are ready to hook up. And that's partly due to the fact that this base plate uses these removable arms. So when you're ready to set up, pull out the little plugs that go in the base plate openings, which I think is a nice touch, by the way. Looks better and keeps debris from getting inside of there. These arms, simply just push them into place, rotate it about a quarter turn until it locks into position. Other side is going to be set up the same way. With the arms in, that gives us an attachment point now that we can hook our tow bar up. And even then, it's really straightforward. You just line up the tow bar end with the removable arm, lock it down. That's really all there is to it. You set all your other stuff up. The safety chain openings are large enough, even with a big hook like this one here. You're not going to run into any issues as far as that goes. So good to see. And as far as what the base plate is going to be compatible with in terms of tow bars, Blue Ox tow bars will work. We have the Avail. It's a really nice matchup for this particular vehicle, but there's a lot of others on the market that'll fit. And a lot of people too ask, they might already have a tow bar, let's say made by Roadmaster, for example. They want to hang on to it and reuse it. Chances are pretty good you can get the two to pair together by using an adapter, which lets you change the ends out here and allow it to be compatible with the base plate. This is what the front of your Jeep can look like when you are hooked up to your motorhome, and it looks good. Everything looks organized. You have your tow bar and your safety cable attachment points on the outside, so easy to get to and easy to see, and everything else is here located in the middle. So real easy to look back here, make sure everything's set up correctly, and kind of go from there. One of the things with these Grand Cherokee L's is this base plate is only going to be compatible with the Overland editions like we have here today. Those seem to be the most popular ones to flat tow around. If you happen to have a different submodel, chances are really good there's a base plate available for those. So just make sure to double check and use our fit guide. Make sure you put in the correct submodel that you have, and that should get you going in the right direction. But other than that, at the end of the day, setup you really can't go wrong with. You can't really ask for too much more. Looks good, easy to use and figure out, right? Not a whole lot of modifications needed to the front fascia at least, with the exception of just taking a little piece of grill out, just pops out so your base plate can come through there, which is nice. And as far as getting everything installed, it's not really that it's complicated per se. It's quite a bit of work though, and definitely time consuming. Front fascia comes off, you have to do some drilling and things like that. So take your time, you should be in good shape. If this is something that you don't want to bother with trying to tackle on your own, you can always check out our dealer locator and see if you can't source a shop that can take care of it for you. So keep that in mind. But with that said, why don't we go ahead, we'll pull into the garage and get started on this now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our Jeep. You can go ahead and open up the hood, and we'll have this plastic radiator cover that we need to remove. And if you were to split it in half on each side of it, there's going to be 5 push pin fasteners. Here's what these fasteners look like, and from this point on, whatever we do to one side of our Jeep, we're going to do to the other side as well, because it'll be set up the same. But just pry underneath the head of the fastener. Use a flathead screwdriver, and you can get underneath the base of it and pull the whole thing out. So we'll just work our way across here, and if they separate like that, not a big deal. And you just push them right back in. And once those are all out, I did the other side already. You can lift up this piece of plastic and get it removed. Further towards the outside of our vehicle, we're going to have one more push pin that we can remove, and I just take this one out. That way this will have a little play in it and make it easier to work. We're going to have more fasteners along this front edge now. So one will be a 10mm head bolt. Pull that out. Then we can switch over to a T40 Torx bit. We'll have 3 of those to remove. We can move to our front wheel well area now, and you want to turn your tires in one way or the other. It gives you more room to work, and that's because we're going to be getting to some fasteners here. And while I was right here, I took some blue painter's tape and just applied it to this area where eventually we're going to be working and kind of pulling stuff apart. And I did that just so we didn't scratch anything. But with that said, we're going to have 5 8mm head screws just like these here along the edge. These 3 on the side here. And there's 2 more just like it, kind of tucked in a little bit. And once you get all of those out, you can take the wheel well liner and just kind of tuck it back like this. If you look where the fascia meets the quarter panel, we're going to have a single 10mm head bolt that we can get removed. On our vehicle, on each side of it, we have these electrical connectors, and we'll separate that. So just take a flathead screwdriver and very carefully just kind of work that white clip out. And then you can push down on the white clip and separate the 2. We can get this piece of wheel well trim popped off now. And what I like to do is kind of work it lightly back and forth to help kind of loosen everything up. And you'll have to come in from the back here, and there's some clips that you can kind of squeeze And while you're squeezing them, you know, you can apply a little bit of pressure to this trim piece. And so it's really hard to see, you know, from the inside here. So I'm just working my way up, and once I get a few of these released, I'll show you what I'm working to get this pop free. So you'll have some that look like this, and like I said, I'm just starting from the bottom, working my way up. I'm kind of squeezing them together, and while I'm doing it, pulling out, and some that look like this, and it's the same concept. You know, a little bit of pressure pulling out, squeezing them with your fingers, and continue to remove it. And you don't have to get this thing completely off. I'm just gonna get it up to about here. That way it don't interfere with anything when we go to take your fascia off. Quick pointer as well, I took some more of my painter's tape and just applied it on the back side of this over the fasteners because they're kind of sharp and, you know, I just don't want to scratch anything. And then to help pull it away, I took a rag, kind of stuffed it in there just to, you know, give it some distance away from our front fascia. Moving underneath the front of our vehicle, on each side of it, we're going to have 3 10mm head bolts. I got the other 3 from the other side removed already, and we can grab this liner and pull down on it. We're also going to have a push pin fastener on each side, which look like this, and we'll work that out. And then the bottom portion of our fascia should be free at this point. At this point, it definitely helps to have someone help you with this because we're going to remove our fascia. And you just want to start at the corner here and just start to work it off. And once you get to about here on each side, you are going to have to lift up on that carefully to clear the hood adjustment knob there. You should be free. Just check for any electrical connections that you may have missed. We're all good. So we'll just take this and set it off to the side. We can get our tow hook removed now. So on the back here, there's going to be a large nut. And I'm just using an adjustable wrench. I'll break that loose and pull it all the way off. Once you get this nut removed, we can grab a 16mm socket, and we'll have 2 bolts here holding this tow hook on. Pull those out. And slide the tow hook out of position. We're going to have this very large nut now that we can remove. You can use a big pair of vise grips or channel locks like I got here, or an adjustable wrench. It's up to you, but thankfully it's not on there very tight. So we'll get this worked all the way off. Once it comes off completely, can just simply push that piece kind of back and out of the way. Moving to our horn, we can pull this 10mm head bolt out. And there will be a little clip there holding our wiring in. And pry that off. And I'll probably just pop this one out too. We'll just kind of tuck this up out of our way for now. We can get the bumper beam removed now. So we'll have two 16mm head bolts. And one on top, and then one on the bottom. And we can switch out for a 10mm. There's a nut there in the middle. I got the other side removed already, so I'm going to apply a little pressure to the bumper beam so it don't fall off here. Once we get all the hardware removed, we can slide this off the front of our vehicle. We can do some trimming now. So we have this plastic air deflector, and I'm just going to go straight up and over. There's a diagram and the instructions you can reference as well. With this plastic, it's kind of brittle. I find a multi-tool like this works really well, but you can use snips or utility knife, kind of whatever you got. Gonna have to trim a piece of this off as well. It's just this part that kind of protrudes out. This is metal. It's not super tough because it is aluminum, but you probably will need to step up to some type of cutting wheel. The multi-tool does work if you got the right blade on it. It just takes a little bit more time. But regardless, we're gonna have to get this removed here. Now just over here on the driver's side, we're going to need to create a hole right here. It'll be an access hole, that way we can get some hardware in the frame. So use the measurement and the instructions. I go right in the middle, and I'm going to use a hole saw to get that opened up. After creating this hole, I came back and just kind of smoothed it down, filed off those rough edges. Then we're going to have this stud here, and you can take a pair of vice grips and clamp down on it. Just work it back and forth a little bit. We're trying to get this thing to come out. So once you have it loose, you take a hammer, and tap it in. That's why I make the hole first, because then maybe you can push that stud through without it falling into the frame. This one's kind of being tricky, so I'm just going to take a magnet here and pull it out that way. And on the passenger side, you know, there's a hole over there already, but you are still going to need to push this stud out, just like how we did over here. So I went ahead and painted that exposed metal just to help, you know, kind of keep it protected and clean up the install look a little bit, and gave it a few minutes to dry. And what we can do now is get our base plate in place. So it's going to sit flat against this portion, and holes in the base plate are going to line up with these holes. So you want to have the factory bolts ready. These are the ones that were originally holding our bumper beam on. And what I did, and all the hardware that we use to secure the base plate, you're going to put some of the red Loctite on the threads, which you will have to grab this separately. Don't come with it. You can get it here at etrailer. So I got all 4 of these ready, and we'll get our base plate. This is relatively heavy, so it might not hurt to have someone help you out with it if you're struggling, but we'll line everything up and get the hardware started hand tight. What you can do now, make sure everything lines up, all the holes and everything, and I centered the base plate because you can move it from side to side just a little bit. So I just moved it as far over as I could that way, and then this way, just split the difference, and we'll come back with our 16 and snug these bolts down. I'm going to come back with a torque wrench now and tighten down the bolts that we just put in down to the specified amount in the instructions. On the side of our base plate, we can use these 4 holes as guides to drill a hole through one side of our frame. I got a 1/2 inch bit here, and so we'll go ahead and open all these up. Once I got all the holes drilled, I came back with some paint, covered up the bare metal, and we can get our hardware in. So you're going to have these bolts, and you can put on a split lock washer. And you're going to have this handle nut, and you might have to put a bend in it because this is going to go through the front of the base plate where we drilled that hole into the frame, and then you can line it up in there. Now, one thing I suggest doing before you even put your Loctite on, at least one of the bolts, take it and run it through the handle nut to clear any potential stuff that might be on the threads, because these have a tendency sometimes, if you hang them up just right, to break the handle portion off. Then it's a huge pain to tighten it down. And by doing that, it'll just be easier to get this started and everything else. So I've done that already. And you want to start with these holes here. All right, closest to the rear of the vehicle. You can line that up. There's really not a great trick to these other than, just trying to hold it in place and kind of using light pressure on the bolt. You don't want to push it too hard because then the handle nut will just want to move on you. So you have to kind of finesse it. But once it catches, there's really nothing to it there. For these 2 holes, you want to take this spacer plate that they give you, and this is going to go in. These openings are going to line up with the holes in the base plate. And something that I do just to help keep everything aligned, this top hole, I'll just take a bolt, put it through there, and then I just drilled a small hole in this piece of plastic here. I'm going to take a zip tie. This thing can kind of be, you're just trying to hold everything and line everything up. And so that plate has a tendency to kind of want to shift on you or drop down. And so you can kind of just tighten the zip tie up as needed to help keep it lined up, at least relatively close to where it needs to be. Seems to just make things a little bit easier. So got that where I want it. And we'll come back with our handle nut, same combination as the ones we just did, and get those started. To get all the hardware in there hand tight, back with a 3/4 inch socket. And snug it down. And then we can grab our torque wrench and completely tighten them all down. Now that they're all torqued, we can get the remaining portion of our handle nuts removed. Sometimes you can just work them off, other times not so much. In our case, ours are on there pretty tight, so I'm just gonna clip them with a pair of snips here. Went ahead and took this piece here, pushed it back through the frame, put the big nut on it and tightened it back down. Then we can take our tow hook, and you can see the little piece there on our tow hook. There's an indentation there on our base plate. It'll kind of drop into place. And then what you can do, you'll have these bolts here. You can put on a split lock washer and a flat washer. And I'll just hold that in place and come around to the other side where it comes through. On the other end of it, you can just take a nylon lock nut. We'll get that started hand tight. For the bottom attachment point, you're going to have that same bolt, flat washer, and split lock washer. With this one, there will be a small hole in the bottom of the base plate and this handle nut here that you can run up through there to get it secured. Both of those hand tight, come back with a 9/16 socket and wrench and snug the hardware down. I went ahead and reinstalled the large factory nut on the back side of our tow hook. And now we'll come back with a torque wrench and tighten down this hardware. And then with that done, we can work this off of the handle nut or clip it. Either one's fine. What you can do now is take the included safety cable and the included D-link, and you're going to want to wrap the safety cable around the frame, connecting it to the D-link through the opening in the bottom of the base plate there. You know, just make sure you're avoiding any moving parts or not pinching any wires or anything like that. And something that I like to do too, it's a really tight fit like this, so you don't really get a whole lot of movement in the cable, but I do like to take zip ties every now and again, kind of tie up any loose spots, that way these aren't going to rattle around when we're going down the road. At this point in time, it would be a great opportunity to install some of your other flat towing components like your diode wiring or your braking system. And I say that because with the fascia off, you just have a lot more room to work. With that said, if you have them parts done already, you're not going to be installing them. There's a couple of things that you can do to your fascia to get it reinstalled, but I'm going to go ahead and get all that stuff done, and you know, we'll pick up from when we're ready to get the fascia back on. Before we put our fascia on, in case you forgot like me, you want to go ahead and reinstall your horns the opposite way that we remove those. As far as what you need to do to the fascia to give you the room to get it reinstalled, on the back side of it, you're going to have this piece of foam that runs across, and on each side, you're going to have two metal retainers. And since this foam piece isn't going to go back on anyway, I'm just going to clip those pieces to get them off here, and the foam piece will simply just lift out. What I've done in the past you know, you're gonna have to create an opening in this bottom portion of this little grill here. And the amount of material that you need to remove, it almost makes more sense just to completely remove this. That way you're not trying to cut little tiny openings here and there. I think it makes for a much cleaner install look. So on each end of it, you'll have a little pushpin fastener helping to secure that wire. And the way you can get this out, if you bend these tabs while pushing up on the grill, it'll start to release. Just kind of work our way all the way down here. This will just pop right out of position. Now that I got the rest of our flat toe components installed, we can get the fascia back into position and re-secured the opposite way that we removed it. We shouldn't have to do any modifications if we end up needing to. I'll definitely touch base on that. But kind of a quick pointer too from past experience, where the wiring connector and everything sits in the fascia, it's kind of tight. So I almost had better luck leaving that stuff loose, holding the fascia up and kind of feeding it through one by one, and then securing it after the fascia's in place. Just carefully get everything lined back up and work it into position here. Was able to get the fascia back on without any issues. I was correct though in terms of leaving this stuff undone and just sliding it through, getting the fascia on and then bolting it back into position. Just makes things a lot easier, but that's really all there is to it. You know, everything turned out really good. And with that said, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Blue Ox base plate kit with removable arms on our 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L.